Welcome to Live from America podcast. Hatem is here. Noam is not. He's in Maine vacationing. But I have two amazing comedians joining me. The one and only Jay McBride and Dan Natterman. Very funny comedians, amazing human beings on and off the field. Great to see you guys.
Good to
Thank
be
you. Nice,
here.
nice soccer
Glad to be.
reference there on and off the field.
Yeah, I guess any sport. But what's interesting is like this episode. So for people, this is going to be about comedy, about comedians, about the careers, about mistakes and good things they've done. Everything you're gonna know behind the scenes of comedy. But also it reflects personalities, life in general. I think the questions that we're gonna discuss, everybody should ask themselves, even if whatever their job is, because it's a live discussion. But what's interesting is I was trying to make this as uplifting as possible, very motivating podcast. And of course, everything, when you're like 5 minutes before my internet cut off, I spill coffee on myself. When I say like, fuck life, I don't want this anymore. So yeah, bear with me. Um,
Yeah, it's gonna be. We're all gonna kill ourselves at the end. It'll be a cult, very culty, right? We're gonna, yeah, right.
yeah, no,
What
no,
was
definitely.
that
But I,
comment? What was that comment? It'll be like the eclipse. We're all gonna die during the eclipse.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I think a reflection, like all the anybody that's successful, anything knows that reflection and self-evaluation is very important. But also it's good for people that listening. Maybe we'll say one thing, a mistake or something you did wrong or right, and also a lot of people are curious about comedy, so we'll get to know it. So in my opinion, if I would say, I wanted you two specifically because let's see if you agree with my evaluation of you. I think you both are amazing comedians, and you both are, for those who don't know comedy,
Agree.
no, beside that, of course you do. You guys are, respected, well-known comedians in the comedy community, top comedians in the comedy community, and you one step away from superstarring. One movie, one thing, it's
Well,
just
that
one thing away from
everybody's one
being.
thing away.
Do you agree with that, Dan?
I agree. Well, everybody's one thing away. I mean, anybody theoretically is one starring role in a hit movie away.
True, but you
So
still have to pay your dues at some point, and to get there and to get recognized, it's just like all it needs is one step. What I'm trying to say is like I'm trying to set up the scene that when you are in that level, it's kind of like when you're in the Olympics and you win the second place. It's kind of like you in like, fuck, I could have been first, and you don't see yourself as, I'm better than third. It's just like you're always in this constant position in life where you're almost, yeah, one step away, but you do. So that's why I'm connecting this to life in general. I'm going very deep tonight, guys. I don't know if you now noticed this. I'm going deep. So do you agree that you are where I evaluated you, Jay?
Yeah, I can see that. I get what you're saying. It's almost, I mean, if you look at all the people in comedy, like there are various steps along the way to how well you've made it. Whether your first book to the club, you're getting paid, then the upper echelon's more when you're past the cellar. But then there's an echelon above that, so it's almost like being in double A ball versus the major leagues. It's like
Yep.
how close am I to getting there? Yeah, and I mean it's tough. Yeah, I mean, it's to Dan's point. Yeah, and anyone's a step away from being like I think it was Pamela Anderson was just discovered because someone saw her at a Blue Jays game or something like that, and then she immediately got cast on Baywatch. So to Dan's point, absolutely everyone's one step away from something, but I feel like you get more of those chances the higher the more you're in this game, the longer you're doing comedy, the more of those chances hopefully will come up. So
Yeah.
we'll
So there's two things. There's one that you hit the lotto, whatever it is, like somebody cast you in a movie that, like, they never acted before, do anything. Somebody saw you, or somebody believed in you, or somebody think you specifically for that role, whatever. So that's, kind of like a lotto, like one in a million, but it happens. But the other one is being in a major league. Because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. He's like, "Oh, I'm dying to pass the cellar." I was like, "Oh my God, how many people have already?" Okay, and then another one is like, I want to get my Netflix special. And then you get the people with Netflix special. I'm like, oh, whatever. And then so it's always that one thing away. So if we go back, we're going to take it from different angles. So let's talk about comedy in general. Like, what is something about being a comedian that you people think you enjoy or you pretend that you enjoy, but you actually don't?
I would say performing stand-up comedy. If people think I enjoy it. No, like they were up on stage and it was like we're the life of the party, and and it's work.
Yeah.
People think it's just well, certainly what I thought before I was doing it is, oh, this guy must be having a ball. But I think people don't realize that it is work, and it is stress, and I always feel like I got to keep they're laughing, but I got to keep making them laugh. And I find it more. I mean, some people might be completely relaxed on stage. Certainly, Dave Chappelle seems like he is. In any case, but I mean, it's work. It's not play, at least as far as I'm concerned. But maybe other people feel it is.
Yeah. Jay, Dan, can you make your mic a little bit louder?
Oh,
Jay,
sorry. Well, how would I do that? But um,
don't know. It's your computer. Jay, what is something people that, or you pretend that you like
Uh,
and people actually hate, but you
One
hate?
thing, I mean, there are a couple things. One, I think telling older jokes, that I have to tell every time, because I'm not going to come up with a new 45-minute set every year. So I have to tell jokes that are 10 years old or something like that. But also, I think in general, when comics hang out, we're all miserable. So I think anyone who thinks that hanging out with comics would be fun, it's really not. We all just like complain. That's it. We're the biggest complainers ever. And not that I don't love all my friends in comedy, but it's like it's not nearly as fun as people think it is.
It's so true. I mean, comedy comes a lot from pain
Yeah.
and something and some, and I think it's the best thing that I always live by, is Colin Quinn interview, like one time when he said, you know, uh, comparing comedians now, he's like, the comedian is not the guy that gets the girl, is the guy that don't get the girl. It's not the guy that win the fight, is the one that loses the fight. That's what comedy is. It's the one that slipped in front of everybody. It's the one that that's what comedy is. So yeah, a lot of people, it's so funny. The other thing I'm just add to it because I am like, I'm a producer of comedy, so I work around comedy a lot. The staff, like you notice a lot of staff, especially in comedy clubs, they all like miserable, and people are like, "Oh, you must have the best job ever." It's like, no, you don't. You deal with comics all the time, which there, as you know, could be too much, and you sometimes hear the same thing. So yeah, 100% agree with you.
well, my style of comedy and Jay's style of comedy certainly is the underdog style. But there are comics that are the cool comics that did get the girl or the guy. I mean, going back to Eddie Murphy wearing that cool leather suit. I mean, he certainly was, projecting an image of cool and confident and the guy that got all the girls. So I don't know if it's universally the case
But
that a
it
comedian.
still comes from like he can be the cool guy, but it's like the bullshit that happened to the cool guy. He's sleeping with so many girls, and that happened. Like it's always the negative part of the situation. Yeah, sometimes, of course.
Also, if you look at some of his most famous roles, like Donkey in Shrek or Professor Clump in The Nutty Professor, so he's not. Yes, yeah, absolutely. When he's on stage, he was like everyone wanted to be like Eddie Murphy. He was the coolest guy, But I think I think to Colin's point too, it's like Mel Brooks has that line, like comedies when or tragedies when I get a hangnail, comedies when you fall into an open sewer pit and die, that kind of thing. Which yeah, I think they're sort of like yeah, like the guy is it's not as funny to get the girl as it is to make fun of the guy who got the girl. That's funnier for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
know why.
And to Dan's point, I think a lot of comics had this thing is like, the thing that they pretend they enjoy the most is doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I have so many people like when they go on the shows, they're like, oh, I'm gonna do this again, or can I do this time, or all that. All right, in comedy, how much do you blame the crowd? Like after like say you have a bad set, do you like it's me or it's a crowd or both? What's up?
Jay, you
Dan.
want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure,
All right.
sure.
Go.
I never used to. I always used to like if there was like a bad night, I'd be like, no, it wasn't the crowd. There are no bad crowds. It's just me. And then ever since I performed at the Cellar, then you see the same comics doing the same material, and it'll be great in one room and then terrible in another room. Be like, oh, it is the crowd. It's 100% the crowd sometimes. I mean, I think you get to a point like sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's the crowd. I mean, I hate to say that, but yeah, of course it is. Sometimes people like laughter's a, yeah, and it may not even be that the crowd's just not having fun. It could just be that they're just not loud laughers, and
Yeah.
that's just the energy you get. So I
Well,
think
let me add one more aspect to it. Is it you, the crowd, the MC, or the venue setting and decoration and all that? Because I know that matters too.
I don't know that the MC matters that much, at least from my observation. Um, I think there's such a thing as a good crowd, as Jay said, and a bad crowd, for sure. But even a bad crowd is usually uh, there's usually a couple jokes that do well, even with a bad crowd. So I think every crowd can be gotten, potentially. The question is whether your act is the act
yeah.
for them. But I think most crowds, there's somebody somewhere that could do well. But then there are some crowds that forget it. There's nobody's going to do well. As far as the MC, I don't think the MC makes that big a difference. The MCs, of course, they wouldn't be happy maybe to hear me say that. Just my observation is that it doesn't make that big a difference. But
The
maybe.
only thing I really notice, like the length of a show sometimes will make a huge difference. If it's like one of those shows that's over 2 hours long, like those are huge. Like the crowd just gets tired. They get worn out. But the hosts, not really. I don't know. I don't think so anyway. Sometimes it makes it easier to start off for sure if the host has a great set, but also,
Also,
I,
the
I
sound obviously is going to make a difference. If the sound is crap, then that's obviously not very good for a comedy show.
right.
you know
And
again,
sometimes you do, and sometimes, by the way, the sound is crap.
yeah.
Uh, especially gigs where it's like it's not a comedy club, it's some guy's doing a show, private show somewhere, and they really don't have the sound. The sound's not really where it should be.
I gonna disagree with both of you on the MC thing.
Okay.
From outside perspective, when you do a show, when you organize a show, every element is important, the lighting, the sound, like you said. And I think the MC is very, very important. First, you have to warm up the crowd to a point where they're ready. The other thing is the introduction, which is one thing I don't understand in comedy. I never understood, but bring the next guy or the next girl is a good friend of mine. How is that a credit? When you say, like, if I say, like, hey, the next guy, you've seen him this, they actually did this movie. The crowd's like, oh shit, yeah, I want to see that. You know what I'm saying? They get really into it.
Do you
But
think
the
so?
MC gets tired too. So it's like, oh, he's or sometimes they don't have the energy and they really have a couple of bad jokes and they bring the comedian right away. And instead of bringing them in certain atmospheres. So I think it's kind of like a surgery and the surgeon is about to come in, the rooms have to be right, the equipment have to be right, all these things have to be right. In my opinion, I find a big difference with the crowd. And also, notice the crowd. Somebody, is laughing or not, or engaging or not, or like, these things. I think that's why I think the MC is important.
I mean, I think an MC is important for an overall show, 100%, like the whole show will. But if I'm on stage, if I'm doing poorly or not, it's tough for me to blame the MC for that. That's all I was saying with that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, for sure. But and
yeah,
another thing with MC is being likable. When Jay, you host a lot of my shows, and like people like you, like naturally like you. And this is Sherrod, same thing. You
not
know,
on Facebook,
sorry,
not
Natterman.
on social media. They don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, face to face they do. So I think it's important. All right, so
Yeah,
let's
well, I just say that the one thing an MC where I think does make a difference is if the MC does doing all crowd work, and
yes.
you go on, it can be a little tough those first couple of minutes for them to readjust or to adjust to jokes, but they will adjust. It might take a few jokes for them to adjust. So an all crowd work MC can I think be difficult to go on right after that.
How important is the laughter like itself when you develop a joke? I ask this because You know that when you see Chappelle working on something new, when you see Colin, so Colin have a like show on Broadway or something. He goes to a bar or like a place at 3 o'clock in the morning. Chappelle, same thing with 4 or 5 people in the crowd, and just do it. Like, is it like I can make 3 people laugh, or is it because laugh is contagious? You want everybody to laugh. Like, how important is laughter to you?
Well, if I'm developing a joke, I got to hear something.
Yeah.
If I hear if I do a joke twice and it's just dead silence, then I'll just toss it. But it's got to, or maybe I'll try to
But
rework
it's
it.
it's never dead silence, then. I know, you know
No,
why?
sometimes it
Because
is dead
no, no,
silence
I
if
tell
it's
you
in.
why. Don't cock block the joke is coming up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't
It's
know a
never
joke was
dead. It's never dead silence because if you bomb on a stage, we in the back room, green room, laughing like a
okay.
motherfucker.
Fair enough. But if
The
the
comedians do that, right?
if the people paying, if it's dead silence with them,
There you go.
and I need to hear something, now I might redo the joke, reconfigure it,
Yeah.
but I need to hear something to continue to have the motivation to continue to develop it.
Jay?
Yeah, it's not a poetry slam. Like you need you need laughs.
Yeah.
If I just sit there and no one's laughing, it's there's nothing more painful than trying a new joke to dead silence. You're just like, what have I done? What have I done?
What if you have a joke that you really like, you really believe in, you think it's genius, you think it's you, and it doesn't get a lot of laughter? Do you keep it or not?
100%, 100%. I mean, sometimes here's the thing. Like sometimes you can write a joke and it'll be like one of those where it takes a second and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's clever," and it's like, "All right, but that's not a laugh. That's not the same thing as a laugh." And there are a lot of jokes I'll just keep telling regardless. It's like you have to enjoy what you're doing, and I think sometimes there's just a few of those just for me. Yeah, why not?
Well, if it never gets a laugh, then no. I mean, even if I think it's good, there are jokes that I'm like, I don't understand why this isn't getting a laugh. It just structurally it seems perfect to me, but it doesn't, and I won't keep it. There are jokes that get a laugh once in a while that, I'm not going to take up, several minutes of the audience's time with a joke that they're not going to like. But there are tags that I'll add that sometimes get nothing, but sometimes get a laugh, and they're just quick tags, and I'll keep those. But no, I mean, if it's not getting a laugh, no, the audience, the audience is boss as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I think everyone workshops a joke a little bit too. So if you have a joke that you're sure it's funny, you're absolutely positive it's funny, you tell it, it doesn't get a huge reaction, and then you just change one or two words, or you reverse the punchline and the setup, and something like that, and then that could be what it takes. So sometimes it's just working it
Yeah,
out.
if I
But
believe in the concept,
yeah,
then yeah, if I think, well, there's got to be, I'm onto something here, and I know I'm onto something, then I'll continue to work on it, and I may or may not ever crack the code. Sometimes, literally years will go by before I get it.
yeah,
It's like, oh, okay, now I finally have it, which is why I mean, this idea of just um, doing a new hour every year, whatever that some people subscribe to. Sometimes a joke will take years to get right. So
yeah. When I was in Albany, I wrote this joke. I just wrote really quick. Just I said, I'm actually asexual predator. That's my big joke. And I told it up there, and I told it a few times. Got absolutely nothing from it, nothing at all. And it turned out like they just didn't know what asexual meant at the time, so they didn't get it. So then I moved to New York, and everyone's like, "That's so great," And so sometimes that's all it is too when you talk about the crowd, and so I'm glad I didn't throw it away, but it was like so shocked that when I brought it back, that the reaction I got, and it turns
Yeah.
out, yeah, people in Albany just didn't know
well,
what it meant.
there are jokes that work in New York that don't work elsewhere, and
Yeah,
there are jokes that work elsewhere that don't work in New York, and I can never
sure.
figure out why. I can never predict with certainty what's going to work and what's not. At the end of the day, it's not a theoretical science. It's an experimental science.
Yeah.
You got to do it, in front of the
So
audience.
everyone is different, but how do you construct your joke? Like, do you have an idea? It's like, oh, I want to make fun of that and work backwards, or something just hit you in the head and you're like, oh, that's funny, and then you
Both.
build the story, or both? Yeah.
Yeah, both. There's some topics that just for years I was working on a joke about being an uncle but not being a parent, and that uncles don't do anything. An uncle's kind of a do nothing job, and I said, there's got to be something there funny, and it took me a couple years to finally get it because I just figured that was a funny topic, and sometimes it'll just hit you, boom, like that. So
Yeah.
it's both. The answer is both to that question.
Yeah, and sometimes if you like, I don't know. Lately, I've been trying to work on on tagging things more. So if I come up with a topic and I have one joke, I'll try and be like, what else can I write about that same topic, and just keep going and keep stretching it. So I mean, sometimes like the actual original joke may have just come from whatever. I was looking at a punchline and I thought of a punchline that was funny, but then everything else, I just so it's definitely both for sure for me.
Great. All right. So if we talk about if you had to start over, and I always, as much as I hate, like, if you go back 10 years, if you do this, if you do this, the idea is not the regret part. The idea is to identify problems that people can avoid. And this, again, relate to anybody at anything, the same questions that we asked before, and this segment as well. So if you have to start over, for all the beginning, would you become a comedian, first of all? Jay,
I don't know. I really don't know.
how did you become a comedian?
I mean, I've always loved comedy. I've always loved
Yeah.
telling jokes. But lately, it just, I mean, it's just changed so much. It's not what it used to be, where you just, all you have to do is be funny on stage, and that's it. Now it's more. I mean, just because there's so much to do with social media. That's 90% of my time spent is spent on something on social media. It feels like, or dealing with social media, and that's not really what I signed up for. So I don't think I would ever. I would always probably do comedy, but I don't know that I would have. I think I probably would have done something else tangential to it. Looking back,
Part B of that question, what was your dream? Like, you wanted to be a comedian. What was, because when I was introduced to comedy in the very beginning, the comedian was somebody who tours around, do clubs, and the big thing is to do the Tonight Show or like Letterman or whatever, and then get a sitcom. That was it. That was the dream. Now, obviously, everything changed. So, what
yeah.
was your dream?
Well, mine I think was
I decided I want to
Letterman.
be comedy.
I think it was Letterman because when I was a kid, I would sneak down and watch, try and watch Letterman, and I'd see Jake Johansson was the first comic I ever saw, I think, and absolutely hilarious, and just getting on stage and making people laugh. That was it. That was just like, the bigger the stage, obviously, the better, and
Yeah.
the thought of being on Letterman, um, absolutely was the dream. That was always the dream.
So
Uh,
you would still do comedy if you can go
So
back.
I mean, if that's what comedy was, if that's all it was, for sure. But now I think, maybe I would have tried something else. I maybe would have gotten more into writing. Maybe I would have gotten more into learned acting at an earlier age or something like that. Yeah, but comedy now, it's just it's a different animal. That's all.
Well,
This is so depressing.
when you say
Now,
go back, do I have the knowledge that I have now, or I'm going back with? Uh,
yeah,
um,
with everything that you know right now.
With nothing at all.
Yeah.
yeah, I would still do it, but if I knew would I get to take my jokes with me?
Yeah, sure.
Well, then
Could I steal people's jokes that weren't born yet?
No, the idea is like, like, as a career, as a start, do you think that this is what you want to do? Because the reason I ask this, like I said, reflection, but also a lot of times people don't really appreciate what they have, and then when you think about it, you'll be like, you know what? I actually have more than I think, And you only, unfortunately, when you come to like a situation like me, when you like close death experience or death experience, and then you'll be like, oh my God, the trees are green. Oh my God, the air, everything is beautiful, and you start realizing. So a lot of times when you go back, it's like, you know what? I've done, you guys, like, for people, again, you guys are like very respected, funny, like a lot of people want to be you, you know? But I think maybe you don't know that. So yeah, Dan, if you go back in time, we could
Well, yeah,
two
I
scenarios.
I mean, what would I do different? I guess is your question, or would I do it at
No, no,
all?
not yet. That's the next question. The first question
Okay,
is like, would you do it again? Would you do comedy again?
Yeah, I don't think they want to be us specifically. I think they want to be where we are in our careers. Let's be clear. I
No,
don't
not
I don't
not
think we're
you
the
in
people
terms
that
of
people want.
not you in terms of you as a person, but you
Right.
as where you are right now,
No,
and
that,
who
that
you
I
are
agree
as,
with.
no, and as a charisma and as a style. Like a lot of people, some comedians, like some people are like, oh, I want to be a Tal, I want to be Colin, I want to be Jay, I will be Natterman. You know what I'm saying? Like the style of it as
Right,
well.
right.
But yeah,
well, the
Dan,
answer is yeah, I would do it again, but I'm sure I do things differently, which we will address in
yeah.
the next
And
segments.
how did you get into comedy?
Me, I'll just open my, the same way, I guess the same way
No,
everybody
like
else
how
did.
did you decide? You know what? I'm gonna
Oh,
be a
I don't.
comedian.
Well, I don't. I think it was just a long-standing dream. I can't date it to a specific date,
Okay.
necessarily, but it was just, I think just a long-standing ambition. And then I finally worked up the nerve to try it.
Yeah, I think one of the, big problems people want to be a comedian and get into comedy is their friends. They always say, "Oh my God," because I see open mics and bringer shows. And it's a business. Bringer show is like when you tell somebody you can go on a stage for 5 minutes and you can bring three, four people to watch it. They have to pay whatever. So it's a business. So clubs make money out of it. Or people tell you, "Oh my God, you're so funny. You should be a comedian." And then like they never. That's why you need an honest friend and who can tell you suck. You like just quit it. Don't ever do it again. You know. So now let's address, and we start with you then. If we go back in time, what would you do differently? What is the thing that you think you wasted a lot of time on, and what would you do differently?
Well, first of all, just to address your previous point, in terms of your friends saying you suck, I mean, the audience is more than happy to tell you you suck,
Yes.
by not laughing. So,
And other comics too.
No,
Other
but
comics.
I'm saying as a start, because you go to open mics, which is the old comedian, there's
right, yeah,
like,
but
ha ha ha, so you think you get your confidence, and then because I see it over and over, I have people who did there's this girl text me one time. She's like, "I took comedy 5 minute class. Can you help me get into the cellar? 5 hour class comedy." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, for sure." You know,
well, I would never tell somebody that they suck. I would tell them that
I would.
they're not ready, or I mean, if they believe in themselves, they could get better. You never know. You can't rule it out.
Let me rephrase this. If somebody's
Yeah.
smaller than you, would you tell them this?
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't tell anybody to, they don't have it. Although I think in some cases that's probably accurate, but people could improve. That's possible.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, what would I do differently? I'd probably, well, Jay said the same thing Jay had said, is just maybe put more effort into try to get work as a writer, I suppose, if I had to do something differently. In terms of the stand-up, I mean, I don't know that I'd do anything differently.
What about like the thing that you think you wasted a lot of time in during your comedy journey?
I don't know that I don't think I would say I wasted a lot of time then doing it.
One of the common things that a lot of people, comedians, will tell me that they think they wasted their time on is staying in one place, not touring more, not getting to different venues, not touring internationally or nationally, like knowing how big comedy is, the market for it, not just in the States, but outside. Would that something that you think maybe?
Well, one thing I have done is put a lot of time and effort into learning French, because initially just for fun, and then I thought maybe I could do comedy in France, but I just get so anxious performing in French that that it never happened. But I have performed in French, but the anxiety was so off the charts that I didn't pursue it.
Was
But
it
yeah,
the same jokes when you perform in French?
typically the same jokes. Some were a little bit different. Obviously there's some jokes that apply there that don't apply here. But
Yeah.
most of it was just translated versions of my English jokes. I might try one more time. I might, go back to France and try it for a week or two and see if somehow I'm more at ease than I was.
You know what you should do? You should film or release album in French comedy, because you'll be more calm. You can
Well,
structure.
I still have to do a show, that's being filmed, but it's still a
Yeah.
show. But maybe.
But I think that's a good accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the
Well, I
thing
don't know
that
if Jay answered the question, what she would do differently, but
No, no. Although, by the way, I would tell someone if they sucked because
yes.
I'm a miserable person, and crushing someone else's dream is the only time
No,
I feel anything.
I
But
mean by all means, I think that people are funny and people you can have wrong perspective, but if you're in a business, you can give them
right.
maybe funny, but not comedy funny, maybe a writer, maybe something. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
But
I don't think I'm that. But
yeah.
like, if someone asked me like after 5 months if they're ready to audition for the Cellar, the first thing I tell is no. Like I would tell them, I would say what you need to do, what you need to,
Yeah.
why
there's
you
a
need
big
to
difference
have it.
between not
But
ready and
yeah,
give it up entirely. And
right,
there
right,
are people, by the way, that probably should, give it up entirely, but I'm not going to tell them because
Yeah.
they won't listen anyway.
right.
And to be
Well,
fair, there are people that have been told to give it up entirely and then they end up being great, you
I
know?
don't think anyone should ever give it up necessarily. If you love doing it, if you love doing stand up, you don't have to do it for a living.
Yeah.
We're in a world where you can just do it once a month. You know,
Yeah.
you can just go to an open mic once a month if you enjoy it. You
And
can just
not to take it away from the question to answer, but I think that's why a lot of the stand-up now turned into crowd work and turned into almost a TED talk with a punchline at the end,
Mhm.
kind of
Well,
to take it away
people are
from some of
going
the
with
comics.
the algorithm. They're following the algorithm, and if
But
one
also,
person does crowd work and goes viral, oh shit, I got to do crowd work.
yeah. No, but I'm
It's
saying
all,
there's a lot of comics that just can do not comics, but there's a lot of performers that can do amazing crowd work or do like a long segment with the punchline at the end. And they say we're comedian too. I think the word comedian have a lot into it nowadays. But Jay, yeah, what about you?
what were we on? What was the question?
What would you do differently, knowing what you know now?
Okay. Well, I think if I were to just do stand up, I would have just recognized the importance of the of social media, but also I think there's a time right after like I really coasted for about a good like my mom died about 10 years ago. And once that happened, I feel like I was just on autopilot for years and and I didn't really bring a lot. I didn't write very often. I didn't and my whole work ethic just changed when that happened. And I think I would probably try and like I don't know, maybe see a therapist.
Mm.
Maybe something like that because it really like I mean, I'm just now getting I feel like it's been 10 years and it just like I had no idea how much it would rock me. But yeah, I feel like I'm just the last couple of years I'm back onto the where I'm like writing more often, where I'm really focused on comedy instead of just misery, just being miserable all the time. But that would be the big thing probably.
What would be things that you would never do if you're back and started your journey? Like mistakes that people should learn from.
All right, if you biggest mistake, don't try and make open mic crowds laugh. That's the biggest mistake. If you're performing for an open mic crowd, the more darker a joke is, the dirtier the joke is, like the more off limits and it's almost like a kill. Like these things are almost like trying to be kill Tony, and it's like that's fine, but that doesn't work when you're at a paid crowd, and that's not going to make you a better comic to do some of that stuff. So I mean, like do those open mics for yourself.
Is
Uh,
open mic, help me understand this. Open mic, is it supposed to that you try your jokes or you're just trying yourself on the stage? Like, are
I
you
think
supposed to use your actual jokes or no?
yeah. I mean,
But I feel people can steal it, no?
yeah, but I mean, like that can happen anyway. And you can post something online, someone can steal it. You can't be so. I mean, I'm at a point like so many of my jokes I've seen other people do, and it is what it is. You just have to be like, you know what, I just put it in your head like, look, this is who, like, I'm a comedian. I come up with jokes like this all the time. So if someone steals one of them, I'm going to come up with something even better. And I'm going to keep, something like that. And it just, you have to have that mindset. And if you're just going to, if you're worried about someone stealing your jokes, you'll never tell a joke anywhere. But yeah, for open mic should be to practice your jokes, to practice the wording, to get it out, to just like nail the delivery and make sure it's perfect, and just think like be honest with yourself like is this something everyone laughs at or is this just something only comedians laugh at and there's a difference.
Yeah.
I think that ideally, and it's not always possible, your joke should be such that if another comedian takes it, it wouldn't it wouldn't sound right coming out of their mouths, um, because I think it's very important to have a unique perspective and a unique point of view. Not that every joke. It would be impossible if every joke were, completely unique to you. But when Norton talks about his trans wife, or Jay talks about the trans experience, or Judah does his world champion thing, or Attell does his unique point of view. These aren't things you could easily steal, and
I feel some people can take the premise of the joke or the punchline almost and build around it. Like, that's a great punchline. Let me do it, something like that. But
yeah, I guess so. But
all right, let's talk about money.
okay.
In the business, when did you really start making money, like as a professional comedian? Like when you call like how many years did it take you, or months maybe, or days? I don't know how, until you start making money that you think you support yourself. Jay?
Oh, years. I mean, it took years.
Yeah.
And then, I think in Albany it wasn't as bad because I was able to do a lot of feature sets for people, and I'd be able to drive most weekends. But then movies, when you're in New York, it's just everything's more expensive, everything's times 10, and it just it took years for sure. Um, yeah,
What do
and
you
then
think that the financial mistake that you made during that time too?
um, I think you take things for granted, like when I was opening for Amy Schumer, it was just, the money for that is a lot better than just, doing your 25 dollar set,
Yeah.
in wherever. But I think you take it for granted and you think, oh, this is gonna be coming, I have it made for the rest of my life. And you're like, oh wait, that could stop at any point. So you just have to, make hay when the sun shines, and then just be prepared because it's not always gonna be that good.
Yeah, for me it was about 10 years when I did Last Comic Standing, and then then that was sort of the turning point in terms of you know uh, making enough as a stand-up. But that is a common mistake that especially in the 90s when people were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the networks for a development deal, or oh, we're going to try to develop a sitcom around here. Here's $300,000. And a lot of them blew it because they figured this is just the beginning. And I probably would have too, but I never got that. So I was never in that situation. But I could understand why somebody would say, oh, this is just the beginning. And a lot of people that got those deals, that's the last big money they ever saw.
So we know that comedy gigs in general don't pay well. So you live in a city, New York for our case or your case, um, there's many clubs. You work, you get paid that amount of money. It's really not a lot. It's almost your transportation or whatever. So you do these gigs, in different clubs, and then in a weekend you can make a little bit more, and you can do 3, 4 times and stuff like that. The real money comes from, being in a road or doing something private like that. Would you take any gig, even if the money is not great, or do you have? I'm talking about right now. You're established comedian, you're respected comedian, and also your advice to new comedians, because some people will be like, "Oh, I don't want to do this unless it's paid that much," or they focus so much, and even we're talking about $100. Some people is like, "Oh, 75. No, I have to take 100 like everybody else." Or So where do you put that in terms of accepting a gig in general? Jay.
Okay.
I absolutely turn down certain things.
Yeah.
If someone asked me to do a weekend spot that I have to drive 7 hours for, and they're paying 150. It's just not worth your time. You have to be realistic. If you have to make your time is very valuable, and you have to treat your time as valuable. So I absolutely will turn down things if it's in the city and I'm here. I hardly ever turn down anything in the city. I'll work wherever, but if it's like a road gig or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah, I've
No, we're
turned
talking
down.
about like something that's is not going to cost you a lot of money or time to travel. Just any gig. Do you recommend and also do you do it regardless? Just because I'm a comedian, I can do whatever and I want to do as much as you can, or it has to be a certain amount of money to be done.
Well, there's a billion factors that go
Yeah.
into it. I mean, is it close by? Is it on a weekend or a weekday? How much time am I doing?
No, I'm talking about like
Do
everything.
I?
Like my point is like because I feel like a lot of the comics, especially the new ones, but they think they're a little better. They turn down certain things because they think they're not getting the money. And again, like let's say there's a club on Avenue A and there's a club in Avenue C. They close by, walking distance, weekday. This club pay 50, this club pay $25. And he's like, oh, I won't do the $25. I'm worth 50.
Well, I mean, principle is not irrelevant. If you feel that a club is not being fair, then that enters the equation. If you don't need it, if you have a day job, and you don't need to do a club, but you don't think they're paying you fairly, that's fine. Everybody's in a different situation.
But don't you feel like, the opportunity, like we said before, is one step away, one there, and that opportunity could be anywhere, and your job is just to explore yourself to more opportunities as much as possible. You never know who's watching. You never know who's...
Well, I guess so, but
Yeah. Okay.
there's obviously, if a club says we're not going to pay anybody, that's obviously, you're obviously not going to do it. Uh, you know, um, if the club is making money, so I mean, I think everybody has a line.
Yeah.
Just depends where that line is.
Copy. What is
Yeah.
the big misconception you think that people think about comedians? I think people think well, I know that one, but what about
Yeah.
you, Jay?
That
What
we're
do you think?
happy. That we're happy people. This couldn't be further from the truth.
I don't know. Is that a misconception? I mean, do people think that?
I think they
Maybe
do.
they might think it. I think a
Well,
lot of people think we are who we say we are on stage, and they don't realize. I mean, in some cases that might be true, but in some cases it's just sort of an act,
Right.
and they take everything seriously, when you're up there.
I
Uh,
do think people think that you guys are happy. I don't think they think they're miserable. Even
I
when
really
you
do.
well,
joke
some of
about
us, I
yourself
think
about
some
your suffering.
comics, some are happy. I guess I don't know. Probably not, but you know.
They're less miserable. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about next one was it's just one of my favorite topics ever. Bombing
Mhm.
and bad shows. As I said, like one of the funniest thing for anybody in the back room, green room or whatever, if you're a comedian or staff or producer, whatever, somebody just into the show, but not, for the show, is when a comedian bomb or a joke doesn't land, and you just like it's so funny. I don't know why. I think it comes from evil, but it's so funny. So, what is the worst bomb you ever experienced, Dan?
Um, well, there's probably a couple that are tied for first place, but I'd have to go back
Counting tonight. Counting
some
tonight.
years. I remember me and Kevin Brennan were performing at this ski weekend in Binghamton, not Binghamton, but it was in that area. And it was just, people were just making, and one guy yelled "Are you a Jew?" in the middle of my set. And it was probably the worst heckle I've ever gotten. And I wasn't getting any laughs anyway, and everybody was talking. So that stands out. Um,
What's the other one tied for first place?
well, there was a time in the Poconos where I didn't have the time and I didn't get paid because I got off early. After like 30 minutes of bombing, I was supposed to do 45, and I thought I had 45 and I didn't. And so I didn't get paid. And then but I had to pay the opener because I had told the opener that I was going to pay them. I must have been like 2 years into comedy. Somehow I thought in my stupid head that I could do 45 minutes. Um, I don't know.
What goes through
People
your head
often will overestimate the amount of time that they could do.
what goes through your head when you're bombing? Do you like, oh shit, I'm bombing, or is it like I gotta get better? It's like this is it. I'll just take it like a champ.
Yeah, I don't. Well, at this point, I don't second guess myself.
Yeah.
And I just think, well, this crowd is not my crowd, and I got to get through it. Yeah, I don't get paid unless I do that time. They can't not pay me because I didn't kill.
Yeah.
I mean, but they can not pay me because I didn't do the amount of time it's in the contract. So I just say, well, I got to just do this time. This sucks, but I
Jay,
got.
how about you?
Yeah.
Worst bomb and heckler that you have to deal with? In person by
Okay. Well,
the internet.
yeah.
I know I was talking about the last time I was my worst bombing experience. Even the computer was bored. Like, I'm out of here.
So yeah, what is your worst bombing experience? And I just think of this question will be so different if I'm in the Middle East. What is your worst
Ooh.
bombing?
Oh, oh.
So yeah, what is your worst bombing experience and a heckler that you had to deal with?
Mine were
In person, because I know you deal with a lot online.
right. Yeah. Yeah, those actually I just started those. I'm like I'm finally at a point where I don't even pay attention to those, which is good. Yeah. Otherwise I'd go nuts. But it was one of my worst bombing performances. I was very new at it too. I was like just a couple years in, and I was doing way more material than I should. And it was there may be 12 people in the audience, and one was a whole party of like a bachelorette party. which is always a nightmare. It's always a nightmare. They're always drunk. They always talk too much, and they were talking, so I was like instead of doing my material, I was like talking at them a little bit and I was insulting them. And at one point, someone at the table just yelled, "Why don't you leave her alone?" to me. And I had 10 minutes to go still at that point. I'm like, oh, it was brutal. It was terrible. I had no right, A, talking to the crowd and B, doing as much material as I did. But yeah, yeah.
That is so funny. Have you ever like lost control of a show completely?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had a corporate gig a couple years ago where they just weren't listening, and I couldn't get them back, but I had to do my 45 minutes, so I just told jokes basically to into a crowd of people that weren't listening. Maybe two people were listening, so I played to them and just said, "Well, all right." And I made a joke about it. I said, "Well, I gotta somebody's getting fired after this set, because the person that hired me, I guess, I guess had to find another job." And
I've seen
yeah.
a lot of comics bombing and dealing with bombing differently, but there's one standout. I'm not gonna mention the comedian name, obviously, but he was bombing so bad and this was in a professional um venue and professional comedians with that. Like we're not talking about somebody new or open mic or road gig or something like that. No, it was in a club, busy, everybody have a great time, and he sucked so bad. And I think he attacked one crowd member like that heckle him, and he was like, "Fuck you," and it was just it was so bad the way he attacked that person. The whole crowd starts singing.
Hmm.
Oh
The
wow.
whole crowd start singing a song, and it was just awful. Like I
What
felt
were they
so.
singing?
I don't remember the song they were singing. It was a long time ago, but like like literally everybody just starts singing, and like one started and everybody, and he just had to get off. A couple of others, obviously someone who a fight happened, or it's funny when there's like how people deal with fights, because sometimes there's comedians that just keep going with the set like nothing is going on. And you forget the comedians are people too, so
Yeah,
so
it
it's
happens. It even there's a show there's a 1 a.m. show at the Cellar, and sometimes like once half the crowd was kicked out during my set once because they were so drunk. It was just because it was like 1 in the morning. It just the circumstances were the way they were, and it's still gonna happen. You just have to like what. Sometimes if this is your job, sometimes you have bad days. You're punching the clock, you're getting paid, and that's it. You move on.
I mean, the Cellar does a pretty good job of making sure people don't get too drunk.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
So it's
100%.
very unusual, but it's not it's not the Lunfontaine Theater. This is these comedy clubs, and sometimes the crowds get raucous,
I think when
and
you are as successful as a clubs like the Cellar, uh and you respect the comedy, first of all, you don't just serve alcohol for the sake of serving.
yeah, you
If
don't pay.
somebody's drunk, you don't let them in.
Right.
And this happens in a lot of a couple of other professional places too. Is like when you and I think this is the main thing, is like for me as somebody who does shows and produce shows, is like two things that make mine, I think, successful. One is like I don't want to be a comedian. When a comedian is involved in the production, all they want is just to be them, and the other thing is like you care about the show itself. If somebody, someone is going to ruin the show for you, if you let them in, it's not worth it. You can identify the problem before they get in. Somebody's annoying and somebody, so you got to be able to do all that.
Well,
uh
this is the sort of thing. This is almost how good they were. Like I was like the first or second comic on there, and they realized like these people that got in when they were drunk, it wasn't noticeable when they first walked in the door, but then when they were on there and they were talking nonstop, and they're like, and they immediately put a stop to it. They went in, they took care of it, and
yeah,
it just sucked that I happened to be the one on stage when they were doing this. But they like, I bet the rest of the show was great,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because it's they took care of it, and that's the difference between a club that gets that it's there are some clubs that do it right, like the Cellar gets it, and the people that show up there usually they're there because they know it's
yeah.
gonna be
And
The
also good
Cellar,
theaters. Yeah,
well, the Cellar also can afford to. I mean, some clubs are
right.
so desperate for for audience that they, some guy comes in stumbling drunk, like, okay,
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, when I said successful, when you are successful in any show, you have that's why big theaters do the same thing. You are in control. You don't need that one person. You don't need that one drink. You need the show to become the star, so that's why you do it. So Jay,
as
you
it,
wanted to see a therapist. So here we go. Let's talk about the mental side of comedy. Uh,
Yes.
are you guys ready to open up? If you need to cry, go
Well,
for it.
we'll see how,
Does comedy make you more confident or more insecure? That's a deep question. I'm proud of myself for this question.
it makes me, I'm more confident on stage, but no, I mean, I don't think I'm any more secure off stage than I was beforehand. The only thing that's made me confident is going on stage.
So that the confidence comes on the stage, does it come before or after as well? Do you feed from it? Like, so your confidence when you're on a stage, obviously, because you're like, the star of the show, you do the show, so you have that confidence, you're doing well. But does that, I'm trying to go deep here, Dan.
No, it doesn't really translate to off the stage.
No.
No, and not for me.
Okay. Even though it's the most difficult thing to do is public speaking in front of people. And not only just public speaking where you're just sharing things, you're actually getting reaction immediately. You're getting judged immediately, not even in the movies, where people that doesn't give you that confidence.
Not me. No, not really.
Jay?
No.
I think it does. To me, I think it made me a more confident person. I think it made me, maybe it's like when I was hosting, you sort of have to do a little, you don't have to, but I would talk a little bit to the crowd. I think the more I did that, the more it did make me open up, but also I mean, I think mentally I'm healthier because of comedy. I think like I could be in the worst mood ever, and then I get off stage and immediately I'm just like, hey, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
And comedy does that. There's nothing like that rush of being on stage, telling that joke, getting that reaction, and still,
But does that
so,
translate also off, off days when you're not performing? Does that confidence makes you more a comedy maker, or does it affect you in the opposite way, make you more insecure? I need the stage. I need to be in that
yeah.
stage.
I no, I think it's makes me more confident. I mean, I don't know. I really feel like, you get you realize like you're making all these strangers laugh. It means you can, if you can do that, you can do it anywhere, that sort of thing. So I think it does. Not a lot. I mean, I'm still, a mental case, but it helps for sure.
Okay. All right. Next deep question. You guys should appreciate these questions. Take me a lot of
Yes,
time to
absolutely.
very deep.
Oh, yeah.
How much does your mood affect your ability to perform? Like, does it like if you have a good day, you have a bad day, you have bad internet like mine now, or like does that affect you at
That is
all?
good.
And I'm gonna turn my camera off for 1 second, but yeah, go ahead. Dan, your mood affecting you, the performance
Um,
in general, not as ability to tell the jokes, but to put a best performance ever.
Probably, but look, sometimes I just, don't want to perform at all. But um, generally speaking, I don't. I think once I'm on stage, whatever had been bothering me is sort of put to the side, and I'm concentrating on the job at hand. um, now, going on stage does affect my mood because if I do a good job, then it does, as Jay was saying, it does give me a boost, especially if a new joke works, because that's really that's where what it's all about. Because the old stuff, if it's working, that doesn't really do anything for me. But if a new joke works, then that will help my mood a great deal. It'll buy me a couple hours of feeling good about myself. Hey, it's 2 hours, that I might not have had otherwise.
Jay?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it does as much anymore. I think it used to a lot more. Now I think just I've been doing it so long, it's just, I can sort of like compartmentalize a little bit. Just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna rip through these jokes, get off stage, and then go back to being whatever, you know.
Well, you did say that sometimes when you do a joke, when you come off the stage, you become in a better mood.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. Like I don't think it affects me before I go on stage, during necessarily, but once I come off, then it's like I get that.
Yeah,
that
if it went well, but if it didn't
that
go
odd
well,
state.
then
Yeah.
then then it's the opposite effect.
Right, right. But even then, I feel like just like I think just getting on stage is just this. It's almost jarring to your nervous system when you get on. You're talking to a room full of strangers, and I think with me, just every time I still get a bit of a rush, regardless, But yeah, for sure, a good set won't put me in a better mood than a bad set.
You know,
One,
you said a few times a room full of strangers, so it gives me this question. Do you feel uncomfortable if you have like people that you know? Fuck.
yeah. For sure. I mean, especially if they're sitting in front because if I do like to talk to the crowd, I can't talk to people I know. So I hate it when they're right in the front row. I mean, they don't really make me nervous as much as they used to. Um, but it does affect me a little bit if they're in front because I have to then look around them instead of.
Yeah, I don't like people that I know from outside the world of comedy. I just feel extra pressure, really, to do a good job. But
Mm.
once I had Tracy Morgan was sitting in the second row at the Gothic Comedy Club years ago when I was headlining. I don't know why, but of all people, Tracy was sitting there,
Hmm.
Wow.
and I mean that didn't bother me so much because I'm not really friends with Tracy, but it was just weird.
All right, so next question, part one, A and B, like needs a lot of honesty. Do you guys really compare yourselves to others? And do you hate when you see somebody who's not as funny or talented becoming more successful?
Well, I do compare myself to other people, and obviously, I think everybody wants to be, the best or one of the best. I don't think anybody gets into stand-up comedy thinking, oh, you know what? If I'm just a okay comic, that would be satisfying. Um, so just like an athlete, wants to win. Um, I think that we want to be, you know, up considered, up at the top.
Yeah.
And well, as far as somebody with lesser talent, I mean, look, there's plenty of people I think are lesser talented than me and that have succeeded, and I don't like it. But of course, I could be wrong. It's possible that they're they're more talented than I give them credit for.
Yeah, no, I mean, in athlete, I always tell, any player, anybody that want to play, if you don't believe that you are the best, you shouldn't be doing it. Some player, obviously, you want to take the role player or, the teammate player is fine, but you really need to feel yourself, not just say it, but actually believe it. But it's really different in sports because there's performance, there is measurement, how high you jump, how fast you go.
Yeah, it's very objective.
Yeah, comedy is, yeah, you can get some laughs, but that doesn't really mean like the most, like how many jokes that we heard that was brilliant. Like, and you know that, like all the comics, like when you tell a comedian uh, a joke that's so good, usually they don't laugh. They just close their eyes like, oh my God, that's so good, because it really hits them there in their head, not, anywhere else. But also like when you compare yourself to others, or I think comedy, like sometimes you open for someone and you're better than them. You know what I'm saying? Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I used to be way worse at it. I used to do that all the time. Like, how come this person's getting booked and I'm not getting booked? How come this person's getting, now I don't look at that anymore. Or I try not to. It's very tough. Like it's so easy to go down that wormhole of like looking at see who's being booked tonight and like oh, I'm funnier than this person, I'm funnier than this person, like, because it it just it'll just get you down, it'll just make you miserable. Now I'm just like, well, all right, well, what can I do to help myself today instead of doing that? It's hard, but I mean, I think like my my instant go-to is to be like insecure and to compare myself, but now I think I'm in a better place where I'm like, you know what, oh, this person has a Netflix special, good for them, that
Did Hatem go for? Oh, hey there. Yeah, you can't control that. So
yeah.
all I can control, and what I strive to do, and what has to be enough, is to do two things. Number one, kill, and number two, do it in a way that, at least I think, is unique. A joke that I think that is unique to me, that other comics wouldn't have thought of quite that way, or so if I've done that, if I've killed and with jokes that I think that other comics wouldn't have come up with or wouldn't have delivered in quite that way, then that's the goal. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, life is not fair, obviously, in every aspect. There's always people that makes it. I know so many shows that, you have somebody who's popular on TikTok or something, and they bring him and it's like, oh, he's headline, and you're like, what the fuck? How does that happen? But to me, like, because as a fan of comedy, as somebody who works in comedy, to me, the success is when something happened in the world. If I say, I cannot wait to say what Dan is going to say about it. I cannot wait to say what Jay is going to. That is success. Obviously, you're not getting paid for that. So, but as a fan, like I remember
Well,
when Trump won, and Chappelle was going to be in Saturday Night Live, everybody was like, holy shit, what is he going to say? That's to me, sharing that point of view and make it funny before anybody else with any event, even something tragic or something bad. I think that is success in comedy. Obviously, we know that there's famous comedians and there's respected comedians. Like somebody like Dave Attell, is famous, but he's very respected.
And also, David Attell doesn't really necessarily give you his perspective on world events. He might throw it in as a quick reference, but you're not getting his heartfelt opinion about anything.
Yeah, true. But what I was saying is like that's the second point. The first point is like, to me, this is what comedy is. Second point is like there's famous and there's respected. And I think both have their own. That somebody like Dave, as I said, he's famous, but not like Kevin Hart famous or anyone. But he's very respected. He's a comedian, stuff like that. So, what is success to you?
Yes, it's success to me is being respected, but I would like the public to know, and I'm not sure where the line would be, and how much material success would I regard as being successful, but obviously, if I had to choose between success and every comic thinks I'm an idiot, and no success, but every comic thinks I'm great, I guess I choose the latter. I don't really want either option.
I guess, is it being funny or being popular in a way?
Well, you want both. You want to be respected, but you also want, the more objective markers of success, filling up a theater or people knowing who you are.
Jay, what is success to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I think was it Netflix, their comedy festival this year, where they had someone who was just trying a comedy for the first time, but she sold out the Hollywood Bowl or something like that. I can't remember who it was. It was an influencer or something like that. And it was their first time, and people were complaining about that. And I think like if you would like 10, 12 years ago, I probably would have said success is being one of the comics at the Cellar table. That was my idea. And then when I got past the Cellar, I think the goalposts move a little bit. Like, all right, now I'm here. Now what? Now I think that the next step, success, would be where I am at that point where I'm selling out fairly big venues. I think maybe I'm not Madison Square Garden. That might be a while, but maybe I am selling out 300 seaters. That's the next step. And I think that's what the next goal. And that's where I'm at next for what quote unquote success is. But I think it moves over time. And I think the more you're in this business, the more it changes,
Yeah. All right, last part. I promise this was amazing, and I think it's very insightful and therapeutic for you. Let's talk about the comedy industry. What's need to change? What do you think that should change? Like, if you can change anything in the industry itself, we're gonna take it industry and then comedy clubs, and then a rule comedian should follow. In your opinion, so what needs to change in the industry itself? Natterman.
Well, is there an industry? The industry, I think, is TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's an industry anymore. There used to be an industry, where people would decide, okay, we want you to be in this show, and we want you to go on this TV show. And in those days, I wouldn't necessarily agree with their choices, but that's how it worked. And now it's like the algorithm. So I guess I would like. I mean, I guess I would like the algorithm to be different. I don't know.
What about a club?
I guess I would just say I'd like, it'd be nice if comedy clubs wouldn't or producers wouldn't, the first thing they looked at wouldn't be your Instagram following.
Yeah,
And I think the Cellar has, the right idea. The city clubs in general, they're not selling stardom, they're selling funny.
yeah.
Everybody that goes to the Cellar knows that they're going to get a funny show, even if they've never heard of anybody on the lineup, and and they've had success. Now, some of the comedy clubs on the road don't follow that model. They just want somebody that everybody knows, um, and I don't know that that does them any good because anybody that can fill up their club is going to take all the money. Because if you
Yeah.
just build up a reputation for having funny shows, it might take a little time, but people will come out. So I guess,
But again, that comes from being successful and being, able to afford it, because some people just want to fill up the seats. But if you have respect to the comedy, like you said, I think you're absolutely
because
right.
like I say, you will fill up the seats if you get a reputation for
Yep.
booking funny people. But yes, that might take a little more time. So yeah, I guess some people might not be able to afford that kind of time that it would take to build up that kind of
Yeah.
reputation.
Jay, what rules would you like
Yeah,
to see?
probably similar vibe. I think like it used to be, a comic gets funny and then like people notice and there used to be like a very clear way to get better, and that in this era of TikTok and Instagram and the influencers that's all gone. Now it's I think agents now instead of looking at who's funny, they seek out who has the most following because they're the
Yeah.
easiest thing to sell. And I think that's the worst part of comedy right now for sure. But that being said, that doesn't mean you can't control your own destiny to some extent, it just means I just need to work on that aspect of my career. Obviously it would be better if funny is all that mattered, but unfortunately that's not it anymore.
Yeah, you do have a little more control in so far as you're not relying on one person that has to
Right.
like you. You can go online and hopefully figure out how to make that work.
Right.
Yeah, I think, the definition of comedian should change, because not everybody, like you can make people laugh in TikTok or Instagram or you can do something, but it's different for stand-up comedy, as an art. So I think you kind of maybe need you guys need to get like a union where people can earn their way to be a stand-up comedy, and then the comedy clubs and all the amazing show, especially the number one show in the world, which is mine, it's somewhere nowhere, you know, um, has to be part of those comedians, not anybody just because they have and if you really want to be a stand-up comedy, you go and join the union. I know Russ Manif started to do that a while ago.
Yeah, well, that was to get more money at the comedy clubs, but
Yeah, maybe
you
I'll
know,
start it. Maybe I'll start it.
well, go ahead.
I'll do a union, and then the clubs have to only hire union
Well, I don't know if
comedy.
Noam will talk to you again, but you can go ahead and
Yeah. The other thing that's starting to
Are
get
you trying to convince me to do it more? Because that's a good thing.
okay.
Maybe you know what? Maybe the seller should do it. Maybe Noah should do it. I think that's a good thing because they got it right, So why not? They don't get any influence. I have a friend of mine. He have a comedy club somewhere, not in New York, and he was like, I got this influencer to do a show because I needed it, and it was sold out. And the kid was with his dad, and the room is outside, sold out. And he told his dad, "What am I gonna say?" And his dad says, "Like, just say, do whatever you do on TikTok." You know, it's insane. So the
Yeah,
respect.
the problem with that model is like anyone who goes there, they're never going to come back to another comedy show because that's what they're like, why did I pay? They're going to be unsatisfied. Like, why did I pay $100 to see this person when I could have just watched them on TikTok?
That is for the comedy crowd, but unfortunately, a lot of the crowd now go because they're starstruck. They want
Yeah.
to. I think this is the other thing is with the audience. There's in my opinion, three kind of audience. One who's going for comedy, pure comedy, want to laugh. Doesn't matter who's on the stage. They're gonna make them laugh. They're funny. They're going for that. Two is people that going to be part of the show. They want the comedian to talk to them and be a crowd work and do this and have maybe a comeback or be viral, whatever. And third is like Star Treks. They want to see their TikTok guy. Or I saw people that went to some Instagram famous guy and the show sucked, but they loved it, and they'll
Really?
come back and come back because they just want to see them, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I could
So
see that, you know. And by the way, laughing is not necessarily the goal. Like if you know, some of these influencers or these TikTok comedians are political in nature,
yeah,
and they don't necessarily their audiences don't necessarily want to laugh. They just want to hear somebody talk about the liberals or
yeah.
the conservative. You know, they want to hear somebody trash, you know, the right, or somebody trash the left more than they want to hear comedy, and that's fine. That's not that's valid. That's another form of entertainment. It's not comedy, but whatever it is, people seem to enjoy it.
Well, that's my fear is like that the audience, especially the younger ones, they don't know what stand-up comedy now is, and they think that this is it. A lot of people, when like in the
Yeah.
younger generation, I ask them, "Who's your favorite comic?" and they would say a name that I never heard. And I say, "What about this or this?" It's like, I don't know. They don't get it. You know, that it's exactly what Dan says. They want somebody to talk about what they, you know, um, talk about. I mean, I remember my first ever comedy show. I was walking, actually, surprised it was at the Cellar, and I was walking by, didn't know what even stand-up comedy is back then. It wasn't that big. And obviously, stand-up comedy is an American art, and I just moved here and I have no idea. It wasn't as popular as now in the world. And I walked in and I watched this comedian and he was doing a political joke. I didn't understand what comedy is. He's doing a political joke and I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. He's going to get arrested on the spot. And then he was like, no. And then they kept going and going and going. And then back then was like maybe 10 people. And it was amazing. And I think a lot of people miss on that on comedy, like late night comedy, New York City, kind of like jazz, like the underground comedy, the comedians that come up. It's just a different kind of art.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do a union.
Okay, you start it
And,
up. I'll sign
and we'll
on.
do a
Sure.
union, and you have to sign up to become a comedian. And then after we do that, we like do some, we steal some money from the funds or something,
Well, I
like
don't know
everybody
about that,
else.
but
You're
We
not
get
into
mopped
that?
up. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get mopped up, and then yeah, we're set.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the three of us get arrested for it, and they have this podcast as a evidence. Last question. Advice to comedian if they want to do it or not, or what to do. I remember Seinfeld one time, somebody asked him on the stage, he's like, any question? And somebody like, what to do to be a comedian? He's like, what advice do you have for comedian? He's like, don't do it. So what advice do you have, Dan Natterman?
well, I would echo what I said before. I would say try to kill, but try to do it in a unique way. And you know, because there's so many comedians now, and and I mean, I go to the Cellar and I have a great set, and I say, okay, but everybody else is going to have a great set.
Mm,
And it's just now everybody, anyone with a camera is a comedian. You really got to distinguish yourself. I think you got to find an angle, something where you stand out.
yeah.
You
So
know.
kind of what I also said, which is when something happened, the audience should be, I wonder what Natterman is going to be say about it, or Jay going to say about it. Jay, what's your advice?
Yeah. I would say just find why you tell. A little introspective would be like, why do you like doing comedy? Why do you like doing it? And find that just learn to love what you're doing, love the writing process, love the process of telling that joke for the first time. And if you just fall in love with the art of stand up and you keep at it that way, I think that's the best way to move forward. Don't be someone else. Just write for yourself and just love everything you do. Just love how you do it. That's all.
There you go. Love everything you do.
Right.
See, that ended up being a good episode. It's not depressing as you predicted
Right.
at the end. You see, we're still happily gonna end this.
Well,
Um,
that's my advice. I'm not saying I follow that advice.
well, guys, thank you so much. If people want to follow you or see you or find you, first of all, I filmed Sherrod's small special, comedy special with Jay. Was so kind to be in it. It's coming in the movie theaters, in select theaters in August 20th.
Nice.
For the whole
Wow.
week. Um, you can watch it, and then it's gonna come, and then we're gonna put it for free on YouTube in this channel right here where you watch this. So Sherrod Small coming, and then next we'll film Dan Natterman and Jay, either they like it or not.
Right.
Their special is gonna be also coming on next. Dan, what do you got going on?
Well, just Dan, just on social media, my name Dan Natterman. And
And your amazing
other
book.
than that, I'm really performing on cruise ships. So if um, I guess if you want to book and see me on Royal Caribbean or Princess, but
I told Jay, I told Dan an idea to get like viral, but he doesn't want to do it. I said take a cruise ship in the Red Sea so you can get kidnapped by Somalian pirates, and then you perform for them, and you
Right?
become sensational, for
It's
the
like
whole.
Tropic Thunder, but Red Sea edition.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was such a great movie. Uh, you can never make that movie again now.
No,
Uh,
well, yeah.
Jay, where people can find you, follow you,
Social media, Instagram.
attack you on social media.
That's right. That's right. Just yeah, just comment. You're a man. That's all I get. That's all I get. 3,000 times a day. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, and I have a couple TikTok, and I have a couple festivals coming up. One next month, and two the month after that. Yeah, so I'll be around all over the Northeast.
Excellent Life America podcast. Thank you guys so much.